Hello and welcome back to Circus and Circuit, Unraveling Global Trade podcast. I'm Kate Foronda and it's great to have you back here. Today we are talking about a topic that sits at the center of modern economic transformation: rare earths and critical minerals. They may not dominate every headline, but they are deeply integrated into energy systems, supply chains, and geopolitics in real time. Before we start, let me share a personal story. 3 years ago, in 2022, I traveled across Chile, from Valparaiso's port through Santiago's industrial core down to the very southern frontier near Punta Arenas. Each region showed a different phase of the country's resource economy. For example, around Valparaiso and Santiago, the logistic pulse was strong with ships, rails, and refineries connecting Chile's minerals to the world. Further south, near Punta Arenas, the landscape told a calmer story. The region's long history of coal mining, oil fields, and gas extraction still anchors local life. Even there, far from the desert, the industrial footprint is clear in altered short lines, drilling rings, and communities living beside extraction sites. So as I moved through those regions, I began to see a pattern. Different industries, but the same heartbeat. Whether it was energy in the south or minerals in the north, everything was part of the vast system of extraction and export that fuels both Chile's economy and the world demand for growth. Standing there and pausing for a photo by the Strait of Magellan sign, I realized how deeply that dependence runs through Chile. From hydrocarbons in the south to lithium and copper in the north, the thirst for minerals connects every region. Extracting lithium from underground brine is especially water intensive. Producing just 1 ton of lithium carbonate can require several million liters of water. In Chile's northern salt flats, that process has been linked to falling groundwater levels, shrinking wetlands, and soil turning too dry to sustain crops. And farmers who once grew grapes and fruits now say the earth itself is losing life. That realization stayed with me. It made me think about the invisible price of progress and how every nation must balance between resource wealth and environmental debt. The more we dig for the future, the more we affect the present. That journey reminded me that this story isn't just about digging ore, it's about ecosystems, trade, national strategy, and how we power our machines. With that, in today's episode, Mining the Future, we will look at what these minerals are, why demand is booming, how trade and geopolitics craft their story, and finally, what hidden risks and opportunities lie beneath. Now, definitions matter because rare earths and critical minerals are often used interchangeably even though they are not the same. Critical minerals are non-fuel materials essential to technology and energy systems that face high supply chain risk. The International Energy Agency lists lithium, nickel, cobalt, graphite, gallium, germanium, and many others in this group. On the other hand, rare earth elements, or REEs, are a smaller family of 17 specific elements, including 15 lanthanides plus scandium and yttrium. They have magnetic, luminescent, and catalytic properties that make them invaluable for high-tech manufacturing. They are not always scarce in the ground, but they are rarely found in concentrations that make them easy to mine or separate economically. In short, all rare earths are critical minerals, but not all critical minerals are rare earths. And let me repeat it one more time. All rare earths are critical minerals, but not all critical minerals are rare earths. Another vital material is aluminium, or aluminum as it's pronounced in the United States and Canada. I'll stick with aluminium. I hope it does not offend anyone. So, aluminium is abundant, lightweight, and endlessly recyclable. However, refining it is highly energy intensive and concentrated in only a few countries such as China, India, Russia, Canada, and United Arab Emirates. The United States was once a major aluminum producer, but today it plays a much smaller role in refining and melting it. Aluminium now forms the skeleton of clean energy infrastructure, from the frames of solar panels and the bodies of electric vehicles to the transformation lines that carry renewable power across continents. When reviewed together, aluminium and other critical minerals represent the true foundation of modern industry. Their availability defines how quickly the world can electrify, automate, and move forward toward cleaner energy systems. That transformation is already accelerating. For example, according to the Global Critical Minerals Outlook 2025, lithium needs increased by nearly 30% in 2024, which is 3 times faster than the average growth rate of the previous decade. The new mineral era has clearly begun. 2 powerful transformations are colliding. One is the energy transition toward renewables and decarbonization. The other is the technology transition, which is powered by artificial intelligence, data centers, and electrifications. Both of them depend on the same raw materials. For key minerals such as lithium, nickel, cobalt, graphite, rare earths, and aluminium, the top 3 producing countries, which is China, Australia, and Chile, now control about 86% of global supply. That concentration has been growing steadily since 2020. Global demand for critical minerals could triple by 2030 and even quadruple by 2040 if net zero targets hold. A single electric vehicle requires 6 times more mineral input than a conventional car. Lithium for its battery, nickel for its cathode, rare earth magnets for its motor, and aluminium to keep the vehicle light and efficient. Wind turbines and solar farms need rare earth magnets and aluminium frames. Data centers that train AI models use chips and cooling systems built from gallium, germanium, and other specialty material. And talking about the world of finance, BlackRock has launched the Energy Transition Metal Minerals ETF and holds stakes in companies producing lithium, aluminium, nickel, and rare earths. When investment giants like that start treating minerals as strategic asset, the shift is undeniable. Machines need minerals, and the green and digital transformation need machines. Without them, progress stops. Now, let's look at the power dynamics behind the supply chain. In southern Chile, around Punta Arenas, oil and gas extraction still operate and reflect a century-old tradition of resource production. Coal mining, once part of the region's early industrial history, has mostly faded, but its traces remain visible in the landscape. Farther north, the focus shifts to lithium, copper, and rare earths, which are driving Chile's modern economic narrative. Chile is the second largest producer of lithium in the world and holds about 36% of global reserves. 2 companies dominate production: SQM and the US-based Albemarle Corporation. More than 50 foreign firms from 10 countries have expressed interest in Chilean lithium project, which is highlight both opportunity and risk. Meanwhile, China continues to control roughly 70% of rare earth mining and nearly 90% of global refining. Beijing's export restrictions on gallium, germanium, and certain rare earth alloys demonstrate how minerals can become diplomatic tools. Environmental impacts add another layer of complexity. I have already mentioned the problem Chile faces. Satellite studies show groundwater levels in some Chilean salt flats have fallen more than 10 meters, which is a lot, and the ground itself is subsiding by 2 centimeters each year. Resource policy has become security policy. Nations no longer compete only for markets. They compete for access and refining power. Trade in critical minerals has grown from $50 billion 2 decades ago to nearly $380 billion today. For resource-rich nations like Chile, Australia, Indonesia, the priority is to move up the value chain by refining and processing minerals domestically. For importers such as the United States and the European Union, the goal is supply security and reliable partners. Investors have recognized that trend as well. I already mentioned BlackRock. Let's come back to it. So BlackRock, World Mining Fund, and other energy transitions ETFs hold a diverse mix of companies from MP Materials and Albemarle in the United States to global leaders such as Rio Tinto, BHP, Glencore, SQM, and China Northern Rare Earth Group. Together, they represent the capital shift toward metals that will underpin clean energy, artificial intelligence, and next-generation infrastructure. However, high demand brings volatility. Mines take years to develop, and refining capacity remains tight. A shortage of nickel or rare magnets can idle an entire EV assembly line. That vulnerability has pushed governments to sign new resource agreements and go after what they call friend-shoring. Control of refining and manufacturing, not just mining, will determine who capture the highest margin and the most strategic leverage in the years ahead. So now it's time to talk about risks and sustainability within this topic. As we all know, every boom carries a cost. Mining and refining critical minerals can strengthen economies but at the same time harm ecosystems, if not managed responsibly. And here are a few examples. In South America, lithium and copper extraction have drained aquifers and disrupted fragile salt flat environments. In Chile and Argentina, scientists warn that some brine ecosystems may take decades to recover even if extraction is slow. In Africa, cobalt mining in the Republic of Congo has exposed another dimension of risk, the human one. Reports of unsafe working conditions and child labor reveal the social price of our clean energy ambitions. Similar pattern exists in traditional gold and graphite mining, where weak regulation and poverty leave communities with no real choice but to accept dangerous work. In Southeast Asia, nickel mining in Indonesia and the Philippines has stripped tropical forests and polluted rivers that once supported fishing and agriculture. Even in resource-rich democracies like Australia, where environmental laws are stricter, mining projects still face growing resistance from local communities and indigenous nations. Those land hold much of the minerals wealth needed for the world energy transition. Developed economies are not exempt from this sustainability dilemma. Aluminium smelting remains one of the most energy-intensive industrial processes on Earth. However, recycling aluminium can save up to 95% of that energy, making it one of the clearest opportunities for a circular economy. It's very important. The reason is simple. Recycling skips the most electricity-hungry stages of aluminium production. Instead of refining bauxite and smelting it at nearly 1000 degrees Celsius, recycled aluminium is simply melted and recast. This process requires only a fraction of the power and avoids the toxic waste created during refining. Every ton of recycled aluminium also saves tons of bauxite ore and prevents roughly 9 tons of carbon emissions. Think about it. Next phase of the energy transition will depend on smarter extraction, cleaner refining, and larger scale recycling of batteries, magnets, and aluminium alloys. A few leading mining companies have pledged to cut freshwater use by half before 2030, but progress remains uneven and often overshadowed by rising global consumption. And speaking of technology, I personally believe that artificial intelligence will soon play a certain role in managing environmental risk. However, it also possibly will create new kind of risks. AI-driven monitoring systems are already being tested to predict water depletion, like model tail and dam failure and detect illegal deforestation near mining zones. The potential is enormous, and we all can feel this. Algorithms can process satellite imagery faster than any human team, track emissions in real time, and recommend safer extraction methods long before regulators react. But here is the question that worries me. If we start relying on AI to monitor the same industries that fund its development, will it truly protect the environment or simply help companies optimize production and just call it sustainable? The line between ethical innovation and industrial efficiency is getting thinner by day. As we wrap up Mining the Future, Rare Earths, Critical Minerals, and Geopolitics episode, here are main points I want you to remember. 1. Rare earths, critical minerals, and aluminium are the backbone of clean energy and technology economy. 2. Demand is rising sharply while production and refining remain concentrated in only a few countries. 3. Geopolitical influence now depends on refining capacity and supply chain control, not just on raw extraction. 4. Environmental and social costs are significant, from water scarcity to ecosystem decline. And finally, 5. Real sustainability will require recycling, innovation, and ethical investments. Building a sustainable world still depends on mining the planet. The question is not whether we mine, but how we balance progress with preservation. Next time someone mentions the green transition, ask yourself, which mineral makes it possible and who controls it? Thank you for tuning in Circus and Circuit Unraveling Global Trade podcast. I'm Kate Foronda, and until next time, stay curious, stay strategic, and trade smart.